Now, Senator Roger Marshall from Kansas. And Senator, you know, the failure of SVB in of itself, maybe not a black swan event per se, but what I fear is the follow-up actions are taking us down that black swan path because they all seem to be the wrong thing. You just wrote a great op-ed in Fox News about this fiasco, and I wanted to go over it with you in the audience. First, the part you talked about, the most dangerous part of this bailout is the message from the administration that it's sending to depositors.
Right, Charles. So I appreciate you having me on to talk about community banks. I was part of a community bank board for some 15 years, a very active board where once a month the management would present to us the financial situation of the bank. What folks back home are hearing from Janet Yellen is that your deposits are safer in a big bank than those community banks. Community banks are the backbone of small businesses, of farmers and ranchers in a Main Street. So if everyone takes their business accounts, their non-interest-bearing accounts, their big CDs off to big banks, then we'll have no money left to loan. We're the ones that can quickly pivot to the needs of a small community. So I'm afraid this will hurt small businesses. It's certainly going to hurt community banks.
And then the overreaction, right? Again, horrible management on the board of Silicon Valley Bank, just absolutely horrible. The White House panic, let's face it, I think it was a bailout of billionaires, big-time VCs, big-time political donors. And of course, when they say the taxpayer doesn't have to pay for it, anybody with a bank account's got to pay for it. So now the onus is on community banks to come up with this money. And you also have a lot of folks out there saying, let's add more regulation to community banks as an answer to this.
Right. So the last thing Congress should do is overreact now and add regulations. Look, you pointed out that their management team was incompetent. They were incompetent from the standpoint that they were buying long-term treasuries when interest rates were low, when the return rate was low. That's breaking banking rules 101. And then the board was irresponsible. They should have been reviewing interest rate risk assessment. You know, every quarter our management team would present to our board what would happen to our bank if interest rates went up 1, 2, 3, 4%, or they went down. That should have been very obvious, grossly obvious a year ago that Silicon Valley Bank was going in the wrong direction, and no amount of regulations is going to fix incompetence. Right. That interest rate risk assessment is not part of how, when the feds do a bank exam, that's not part of the exam. You have to have competent management, and I just got to emphasize, I've talked to multiple community banks across the state of Kansas, dozens of them, and I feel that those deposits are very, very safe.
Senator, to that point, though, Secretary Yellen and the way she's articulated her position, and even I would think President Biden two Sundays ago, or was it last Sunday, suggesting, and you wrote this out, that depositors are safer in too big to fail banks. I mean, I'm surprised none of them emphasize that the overwhelming majority of Americans are covered. $250,000, you're covered, and they never really have emphasized that.
Yeah, exactly, and you pointed out in your opener here, just a poor job of communication the White House and Yellen are doing in this situation. That, look, you're still insured there at that $250,000 rate, but I want to talk about solutions too, and something that needs to be debated up here on Capitol Hill, the pros and cons of some type of insurance for those non-interest bearing accounts. And I haven't come down on one side or the other, but I want to give that business relationship is so important to community banks. We need to make sure where that cash is flowing in and out quickly that we keep those relationships too. Yeah,
right now First Republic is offering business accounts at more than $5 million and they're less than 2%. They can get more than 4% in the money market. So you're right. Something's got to be done so that they can keep those. What's a large account for a small bank? I can't wait for you to get those solutions. Please come back and share them. By the way, who you got for this weekend in the NCAA?
How about those Kansas State Wildcats? I hope the mayor of New York understands that Kansas indeed has a motto, that we have a plan, that we have a logo.
You know, some people have swag. They just win. That's their swagger. Thanks a lot, Senator.
You bet, Charles. Thank you.
All right, coming up, square, block, whatever you want to call it, it is getting